She was about to give birth. Then her ex-husband doctor did the devastating thing at midnight. The clock ticked ominously as the clock hands crept towards midnight. Inside the darkened hospital room, Sarah lay trembling on the delivery bed, the sterile smell of antiseptics clinging to her senses like an oppressive cloak. The beeping machines around her sounded like heartbeats of a nightmare, growing louder with every surge of pain. She could feel the sharpness of fear, twisting up from her stomach, clenching her chest. This was supposed to be a joyful moment, a life entering the world. Instead, the presence of her ex-husband, Dr. Jake, filled the air with a chilling tension. Dr. Jake stood in the corner, his shadow shadowed by the flickering fluorescent lights. Once, he was her savior, her partner in crime, the one who promised to stand by her. But now, his mere presence was like a storm cloud, threatening to unleash chaos. He glanced at Sarah with a coldness that made her skin crawl. She shivered, feeling trapped, like a deer in headlights, every breath a struggle against the tide of panic that threatened to pull her under. What was going to happen next? And then, it hit her a sharp realization. Her friends had been talking about unusual hospital procedures lately, whispers of experiments gone wrong, the ethical lines blurred in the name of science. As she glanced at him, a lump formed in her throat. Was this a part of that dark trend? She'd never contemplated it before, but fear clawed at her mind. What if he was doing this for his own twisted reasons? A nurse stepped in, breaking the heavy silence, but the tension didn't dissipate. Sarah noticed the wary glances exchanged between them, a silent communication of distress. What was happening here? Confusion bubbled up with each agonizing contraction, while shadows seemed to wrap tighter around the edges of the room. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Back in the room, Sarah could feel the fight rising within her. An urge to escape, to flee this nightmare, surged just as the first wave of pain hit her. The nurse shouted for assistance, and the rapid response echoed through the hospital corridor. But the chaos felt external to her, the real battle raged inside. Her heart raced as she watched Dr. Jake step forward, an unsettling calm in his eyes. He had become a stranger, an enigma shrouded in mystery. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was teetering on the edge of a chasm, ready to take a plunge into horror. Could it be that he was up to something unthinkable? As another contraction seized her, Sarah saw a glint in his eyes that sent chills down her spine. What was he planning to do? The walls of the hospital felt like they were closing in, as her scream hung in the air. Would anyone come to save her from the man she once loved? The beeping machines surged, rapid and frantic, syncing with Sarah's racing heartbeat. She was drowning in a maelstrom of fear and confusion. The room felt like it was spinning, and she couldn't separate the screams from her own pain. Another contraction hit her, harder this time, and she gasped, her nails digging into the bed's sterile sheets. You're doing great, Sarah. Just breathe, the nurse urged with a calm but strained voice, yet her eyes flitted nervously toward Dr. Jake. Sarah caught that gaze and felt a wave of panic wash over her. Why was the nurse so tense? Dr. Jake stepped closer, his movements deliberate. We need to proceed, he said, his voice sharp and clinical. The word proceed hung heavy in the air like a foreboding storm, and dread curled in Sarah's gut. He was still her doctor, but that title felt more like a threat than a guarantee of safety. Trust me, he continued, the cold steel of his tone sending shivers down her spine. Trust you? She couldn't help but bark out, the pain mixing with outrage. How can I trust you after everything? She shot a desperate look toward the door, longing for someone, anyone, to burst in and save her from this nightmare. He smirked, an unsettling glint in his eye. It was a look she hadn't seen in years, the devilish confidence that had once drawn her in but now repulsed her. "You don't have a choice, Sarah. Not now." Her breath caught, and the beeping intensified, syncopating with the escalating panic in her mind. What did he mean by that? She clenched her fists, suddenly aware that this moment was beyond her control. The walls felt too close, and each sound felt amplified, drawing further into the chaos. Suddenly, the door swung open, and another nurse rushed in, followed closely by a doctor, a different one, someone with a more familiar face. Sarah recognized him, the compassionate one who had cared for her when she first arrived. "What is going on here?" he demanded, eyes flicking between Sarah and Dr. Jake. "He is attempting to," Sarah started, but another contraction clenched her abdomen, cutting her words short. "I'm performing a safeguard procedure. She needs to be stabilized." Dr. Jake interjected smoothly, his gaze unwavering and threatening. "Safeguard? From what?" The new doctor stepped closer, placing a protective hand on the edge of Sarah's bed. He faced Jake, an unspoken challenge igniting between them. The tension was palpable, a knife edge of confrontation. "He knows what's best," Jake insisted, eyes like ice. "No, you don't." Sarah screamed, the primal instinct for survival roaring to the forefront. She whipped her head back to the nurse, pleading with her own eyes for help. Just then, the lights flickered, plunging the room into momentary darkness before sputtering back to life. In that heartbeat of uncertainty, Sarah felt a surge of something. It was more than panic, it was adrenaline. The flicker had illuminated a decision: she had to fight. As her next contraction hit, she channeled that energy into a fury she didn't know she had, pushing back against the fear that had masked her voice. "I won't let you touch me," she shouted. Before anyone could react, the door burst open again, but this time it wasn't just the doctor, it was security, three formidable figures storming in, led by a tall man with a badge. "Step away from the patient," he barked. How had she drawn attention? Had her scream echoed through the halls? Relief flooded her, but the fear remained. The showdown had only just begun. As the tension thickened in the air, Sarah felt another pain twist through her, sharper than before. And amidst the chaos, she sensed the clarity she desperately needed. This was her fight, not just for her baby but for her own life. But as she prepared to stand her ground, Dr. Jake's eyes flared with rage, and with a single command, he turned the situation upside down. "You have no idea what you're interfering with," he snapped. And when it hit her, what he had planned was only the beginning. What happened next could shatter everything she believed was possible, and time was quickly running out. The charged atmosphere hung heavy as security swarmed around Sarah's bed, their presence towering and commanding. The tall man with the badge narrowed his eyes at Dr. Jake, clearly not intimidated by his earlier confidence. "Step away from the patient, now." But Jake's expression twisted into a mask of rage, a snarl curling at the corners of his lips. "You don't understand the situation at hand," he hissed, his voice low and dangerous. The rhythmic beeping of the machines faded into the background as Sarah's heart raced. She could feel the electricity in the air, the tension, punctuated by her sharp gasps of pain and fear. "Tell me, doctor, what you think you're doing here," the lead security officer demanded, his voice steady but with an edge of authority that resonated through the chaos. He motioned to his colleagues, who flanked him, ready for anything. Jake took a step back, his demeanor turning from confrontational to calculating. "You have no idea what she's capable of," he warned, his gaze flickering to Sarah's swollen belly. The threat loomed over her, a dark cloud she couldn't shake off. "I'm capable of deciding for myself," Sarah interjected, voice trembling but powerful. With each word, she felt a fire building inside her, fueled by desperation to protect her child. "I won't let you hurt us." The new doctor, the one she trusted, stepped closer, remaining calm even as the storm swirled around them. "We need to assess the patient immediately, and I'm not letting you near her until I'm certain she is safe." Jake scoffed, regaining his bravado. "Safe? You think you can protect her from her own body? The baby is in distress. A chill slithered down Sarah's spine at those words. Distress. What did he mean? The pain surging through her abdomen intensified, accompanied by a thrumming sense of urgency. What do you mean distress? She shouted, panic lacing her voice. Sarah, calm down, the nurse urged as she pressed a button to call for more help. Just focus on breathing. But the calmness in the room was dissolving fast under the pressure of conflicting voices. The lights suddenly flickered again, and for a moment, they went out entirely, plunging everyone into an eerie shroud of darkness. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest like a battering ram as she fought to breathe through the rising panic. Her instincts screamed at her to do something, anything, before the lights came back on. When they burst back into brilliance, all seemed surreal. The security team was tense, coiling back like springs ready to spring into an action neither she nor the doctor could predict. Sarah looked into the eyes of the lead officer. He was fierce and determined, the kind of man who wouldn't back down easily. But his reassurance meant nothing if Jake was as dangerous as he now appeared. You'll regret this, Jake warned, his voice dripping with venom, eyes darting between the men and Sarah. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Gritting her teeth against another wave of pain, she leaned forward, desperate for comprehension. Just tell me what's happening. She cried, each breath cutting through her chest like shards of glass. Before Jake could respond, another nurse burst into the room, her face blanched. The doctor on call. We need to act now. She exclaimed, rushing toward them. And then he unleashed the devastating truth that twisted the universe around her in a single heartbeat. You're not just giving birth, Sarah. You're part of something much bigger than yourself. Sarah's world felt like it was collapsing as confusion gripped her. A paternity test. Something more sinister. Each question thundered in her mind, the weight of his words loomed, shrouding everything in ambiguity. Just when she thought she'd found her footing, shaking the foundations of her reality beneath her, what twisted fate awaited her in those next moments? And did she have the strength to confront it head-on? As the machines beeped their relentless rhythm, all of Sarah's instincts screamed that time was slipping through her fingers. The revelation hung in the air like a dare. Waiting for the next move to shatter everything she thought she knew. The room pulsed with tension, the urgency wrapping around Sarah like a suffocating blanket. Jake's words hung ominously, twisting in her mind. What did he mean by something much bigger? Suddenly, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed in the corridor, drawing nearer. The nurse's panic-stricken face told Sarah they were fighting against something far greater than mere medical complications. Another doctor rushed in, white coat trailing behind, as he flung open the door. Dr. Jake, he shouted, pain-laden urgency in his voice. We need to stabilize her now. But Jake was not moving. His eyes were dark pools of determination. You don't understand. The baby is not just a child. Sarah carries something unique, something powerful. A chill raced down Sarah's spine as the words seeped into her core. What did he mean? She struggled to catch her breath as the machines beeped a frantic rhythm, mirroring her accelerating heart rate. Stop! Yelled the lead security officer, his fists clenched, grounding everyone's attention. This is not the time for secrets. Sarah's health is our priority. We need to know what is going on now. As they argued, pain radiated through Sarah's body, sharper than before. I can't do this. She gasped. Not like this. Her voice shaky, filled with fear, echoed off the sterile walls. Focus on me, Sarah, the new doctor commanded, taking her hand, squeezing gently. You are strong. Breathe with me. You must push through. But an utterly different battle raged in her heart, a war of trust. How could she trust anyone when Jake's warnings clawed at her conscience? Was the unknown child inside her truly something important as he claimed? The confusion kept her rooted in dread, unable to visualize the joy she once expected from motherhood. Let us prepare for an emergency delivery, the new doctor stated firmly, as if each word was a lifeline thrown into tumultuous waters. He gestured to the nurses, moving them into action, arranging instruments with swift precision. Meanwhile, Jake watched, a smirk creeping onto his face, his breath heavy with malice. He had no intention of backing down. "You don't know what will happen to her if you go through with it," he declared coldly. "Shut him down." The officer barked at his team. "He's not allowed near this patient." "I can't." Sarah cried out, anguish tearing at her throat. "Get him out. Please." In an instant, 2 security guards advanced, muscles tensed, intent on escorting Jake out. But the doctor was prepared. He stood his ground. "You'll see," he warned, eyes glinting with fierce satisfaction. "You'll all regret not listening to me." She doesn't realize the power within her. The room felt like it was spinning as panic swelled inside Sarah. Sweat dotted her forehead and her vision blurred. "What do you mean power?" she whispered, voice breaking. Jake leaned closer, his voice low and dripping with ominous certainty. "You're carrying the future, Sarah. Powers that could alter everything." "Don't you dare," she screamed, the words spilling out like venom. "Don't use my child as a pawn for your twisted games." Electricity crackled in the air as her anger surged, mingling with the pain. A whirlwind of emotions enveloped her. Could she even trust herself right now? Suddenly, there was a loud commotion at the door. The nurse from moments before burst back in, her expression torn between fear and urgency. "Something is happening outside. We need to stabilize you now." Desperation clawed at Sarah. "Get him away from me. Please." The nurse rushed to her side, speaking softly as the tension in the room thickened. But Jake only laughed, as if the chaos only fueled his sadistic delight. "You think you can save her? You think you're ready for this?" The feeling of impending doom wrapped around Sarah's chest. What did he know that they didn't? As they prepared for the impending delivery, Sarah's heart raced with uncertainty and wild hope. Just when she thought she could grasp the truth, everything spiraled again. Would she be able to protect her child from whatever dark forces were turning in the shadows? Just as her mind spiraled into confusion, a loud crash echoed through the hallway, causing everyone to freeze. What had just entered the room might change everything. The room seemed to shrink, the air thickening with every heartbeat. The crash echoed like a harbinger of chaos, gripping Sarah in an icy embrace. Her eyes flitted around the room, searching for clarity amid the turmoil, but all she found was fear. The door burst open wide, slamming against the wall. A shadowy figure stumbled in, clothes torn and bloodied, eyes wide with fear. It was Mark, her ex-husband. Panic erupted, a new wave of dread crashing over Sarah. What was he doing here? "Sarah!" Mark shouted, breathless, his voice filled with urgency. "They're coming. We need to get out of here now." Jake took a slow step forward, his smirk vanishing as if it were never there. "You shouldn't be here, Mark," he said calmly, like a snake assessing a threat. The tension thickened, each pulse of anxiety merging with the beeping machines. "You don't understand." Mark cried out. "They'll hurt her. They want the baby enough." The new doctor stepped forward, grounding himself as an anchor amidst the chaos. "We need to focus on Sarah. She's in labor. This is not the time for whatever this is about." "Labor?" Mark's gaze flickered from the doctor to Sarah, horror dawning. "You're kidding me, right? No time." The nurse barked, forcing Mark back to urgent reality. "We have to stabilize her. Everyone needs to step back." Sarah's senses heightened as her focus narrowed on the faces around her. She felt trapped, as if each voice was pulling her in a different direction. The pain surged anew, a tightening coil that twisted in her abdomen. She gasped, every inhale laced with uncertainty and dread. "Just breathe, Sarah. We're here with you," the new doctor urged, his voice steady, but she could see the concern etched in his brow. "Just focus on me." Mark, what is happening? She managed to croak out, but her ex-husband's eyes were wide, darting to the door as if expecting something terrible to burst through at any moment. Without warning, the lights flickered, casting shadows that danced across the walls. A deep voice echoed from outside the room, a commanding authority that made Sarah's blood run cold. "Dr. Jake, you're under arrest." For Sarah's heart dropped, and panic skyrocketed. The urgency turned into chaos. Nurses moved swiftly, shields against the impending storm as footsteps thundered toward them. The door rattled violently. "Get ready. We don't have time," Mark urged, stepping closer to her. "You need to trust me. I can help. I won't let them take you or the baby." The walls felt like they were closing in. Jake's eyes glinted, a predator cornered. "You're making a mistake, Mark. You're putting everyone in danger." "Enough!" Sarah cried, her voice rising above the turmoil. Everything that had happened, the fear, the secrets, the warring loyalties, reached a boiling point. "I need to know what is going on. I need to know what is happening to my baby." The sound of glass shattering echoed from the hallway, like a truth breaking free. Nurses paused, breath catching in their throats, while uncertainty twisted like a knife. "I know why they want you. Why they want your child," Mark breathed, gripping her shoulders. "You're not just having a baby, Sarah. You're carrying the key to something unimaginable." "What do you mean?" she gasped, fresh panic flooding her veins. The pain surged again, but this time, it was different. It felt like her body was trying to communicate something beyond words, a warning, an urgency. Just then, the door exploded inward. A flood of men in uniform stormed in, expressions grim, weapons drawn. Hands in the air. They yelled, and the entire room erupted into chaos. Amidst the shouting and the commotion, Sarah's heart raced. The situation spiraled further out of control. In that moment, she could feel the power inside her, pulsing, demanding to be unleashed. But was that power a beacon of hope or a harbinger of doom? What were they really after? And would she be able to harness whatever was within her before it was too late? In that blinding moment of chaos, she knew she had to make a choice. Would she fight for the truth, or hide away from whatever darkness lay ahead? The scene erupted in chaos. Sarah's body trembled as the menacing figures in uniforms flooded the room, shouts and demands blurring into a cacophony that made her head spin. She struggled to catch her breath, every inhale stinging like ice. The sharp pang of labor cut through her, an unyielding insistence that she couldn't ignore. Mark's grip on her shoulders tightened. "We need to move, now." His voice was a frantic whisper, urgency lacing every syllable. "They won't just take you. They'll take the baby, too." A uniformed officer stepped forward, weapon drawn. "Get down on the floor," he barked, eyes darting between Mark and Jake, who stood rooted, disbelief and fury intertwined. "Stay back," Jake shouted, raising his hands as if to signal surrender, but his eyes gleamed with something cold and calculating, as though this chaos was a game he was determined to win. "You will regret this. You don't know what she is carrying." The officer ignored him, eyes narrowing on Sarah. "We'll protect you," he asserted, tension rippling through the air as he aimed his gun directly at Mark. "You're the threat here." Mark stepped in front of Sarah instinctively, his voice rising above the chaos. "You don't understand. She is not safe. There's more at play here than you realize." Each word felt like a hammer against Sarah's skull. Her mind raced with fragments of conversation. What did Mark mean? What was this key he spoke of? The nurse, having regained some composure, stepped between the officer and Mark, her own fear palpable. "We can't delay. Sarah needs help." Her voice cracked, urgency folding over them like a shroud. "Get the fuck out of our way." The officer took a domineering step forward, eyes flicking to the doctor. "This is an emergency operation. We have orders to bring her in." Just as a scream of desperation escaped Sarah's lips, the lights flickered violently again before plunging the room into darkness, illuminating only the glint of metal and the hollowness of fear. Not knowing who could strike next, dread filled the pit of Sarah's stomach, matching the tightening in her abdomen. "Mark, please, I don't understand," she cried, her voice shaky. In that moment, Mark's expression softened, revealing the terrified man behind the bravado. "Sarah, listen to me. Whatever comes next, you must trust yourself. You are stronger than you think." Suddenly, a blinding white light pierced the darkness, blaring from the hallway. The noise of chaos crescendoed around them as a beat of boots echoed from the corridor. It was an army, preparing to breach the room. Sarah's heart raced, pumping fury and fear through her veins. Was she truly the key to something terrifying? She could feel the energy bubbling inside her, threatening to break free. "Let us move," Mark yelled, grabbing her hand. Before she could respond, an explosion of sound shattered the air as the door burst open once more, revealing a commanding figure tall, authoritative, and glaring with fierce intensity. "Get on the ground. Now." The power surged within her like a shockwave, wrapping around her core. "No!" she screamed, feeling a pull toward her baby that was undeniable. "I want to let them take me." Sarah's body responded, the energy feeling alive and electric. The air thickened as if it were charged with a storm about to break. She stood tall, defiant. In that moment of reckoning, she saw past the chaos the fear in Mark's eyes, the soldier's determination, the truth looming just out of reach. She had a choice to make. The walls were closing in. What might happen next could change everything, but the moment was interrupted. A gunshot rang out, and in the heartbeat of silence that followed, every heart in the room skipped a beat. What had she unleashed? And at what cost? Sarah felt a rapid shift, a shifting tide, and couldn't shake the terrible sensation that a storm was brewing, ready to consume them all. Would she embrace the power inside her or succumb to the chaos threatening to swallow her whole? The gunshot echoed through the room, drowning out the cacophony of chaos and momentarily suspending time. Sarah felt a jolt run through her, as if the shot had struck her directly. She twisted her head sharply, eyes darting around in search of the source, pulse racing. "Mark!" she cried, the word escaping in a panicked breath. She felt the need to cling to him, to hold on tight amidst the uncertainty that surged like a tidal wave. "Stay behind me," Mark commanded fiercely, still holding her hand, his knuckles white. The officer, who had moments before been yelling orders, staggered back, surprise replacing his fierce bravado. His gaze was locked on a figure who had charged through the door, another officer, clutching a radio, eyes wide with shock. "What the hell just happened?" he shouted, glancing toward the first officer still processing the situation. Breathless, Sarah's eyes locked on Jake. He stood at the edge of a shattered window, poised like a predator. Blood dripped from his fingers as he withdrew a small pistol from his belt, the wicked grin on his face contrasting with the sirens that wailed outside. "Expecting flowers?" Jake taunted, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You're too late, officer." "Jake, don't!" Sarah screamed, sensing a downward spiral into violence. Her heart raced, not just from fear, but from the instinctual touch of motherly protection echoing fiercely within her. "Please." Mark's grip tightened, and he began to pull her toward the corner of the room. "We need to get out now." But then Sarah felt it a surge, harder than before. It was as if the darkness in the room manifested into something almost tangible, an energy radiating from within her that demanded to be unleashed. "Stop!" she shouted, voice rising above the tumult. "I can't let you hurt anyone." The words echoed off the walls, and to her surprise, they seemed to linger in the charged air. Time froze, the room shrinking down to just them. Jake's laughter cut through the tension, sardonic and dangerous. "You can't stop it. You don't even know what you're capable of." With a sudden flash, Sarah's vision blurred, and she felt weightless, as if the very ground had shifted beneath her. A pulse of light burst from her like a star igniting and enveloped the room in a blinding glow. The shockwave hit like a brick wall. The officers gasped, shielding their eyes, and Mark stumbled back, expression torn between awe and fear. Sarah could feel the energy swirling inside her, something primal or ancient that she had never understood before. "Sarah!" Mark shouted, but the sound felt distant, muffled behind the rush of her own heartbeat, the energy outside of her grasp growing stronger. "Let them go!" she demanded, her voice steady now, the fear giving way to something resolute. "I am more than just a mother. You'll see." Jake's triumph shifted to frustration, the wild gleam in his eyes dimmed as he staggered back. "What are you doing?" Before she could explain, the blinding light erupted outward, engulfing Jake in a vortex of energy. The furniture rattled and the walls shook, and for a moment, Sarah felt as if she could bend the very fabric of reality. Mark was screaming now and the officers yelled in confusion, scrambling to secure the perimeter. The chaos erupted once again as different struggles unfolded. An officer tried to pull Jake away while Mark desperately reached for Sarah. Then, in that shattering moment, the overwhelming force burst forth, overwhelming, uncontrollable. And then the lights went out again, silence swallowed the room. In the aftermath of her unleashed power, Sarah felt a haze envelop her mind. Exhilaration mixed with profound exhaustion washed over her, and she sank to her knees, heart pounding. The world came rushing back as darkness fell, and with it, a heavy weight of dread. What had she just done? "Sarah?" Mark's voice sliced through the shadows, laced with a mix of hope and trepidation. But before she could answer, she felt the unmistakable tug of another presence within her. The baby was coming. Just as a door slowly creaked open, illuminating half of the chaos, she braced for what was to follow. Was she ready to face the truth of who or what was inside her? And then, a chilling whisper crawled through the darkness, "We're not done yet." The door creaked open wider, revealing a dim light that flickered like a heartbeat. Shadows danced across the room, amplifying the tension that hung in the air. Sarah could feel the weight of presence, something lurking just beneath the surface. Fear coiled itself around her chest, intense and suffocating. "Stay strong, Sarah," Mark urged, concern etched deeply into his features. But as she glanced at him, his eyes betrayed a flicker of doubt. Then there was Jake, still grounded in that ethereal glow, seemingly suspended between reality and some darker realm. The faint line of blood on his fingers glistened like a macabre accent to the chaos. "You're playing with powers you don't understand," he hissed, raw edges of his voice cutting through the turmoil. An unsettling tremor passed through the walls, sending a tremor through Sarah. Was it her doing? The whirling energy inside her felt alive and restless, echoing with every heartbeat. She grimaced, trying to suppress it. But with each instinctual push from the baby within her, the push from her connection to this vortex surged anew. "Sarah!" Mark's voice broke through her thoughts, urgent and clear. "Focus. Just breathe. We need to protect the baby. You can't let it take control." Control. The word echoed, reverberating in her mind. She felt an overwhelming urge to surrender, but she couldn't. Not when lives hung in the balance. "Get away from her." Mark snapped, glaring at Jake, his expression fierce, protective, with an almost predatory agility. Jake sprung forward, breaking the beam of light that had contained him. "You're both in over your heads," he sneered, lunging towards Mark. The energy intensified, a tempest swirling, threatening to consume everything. "Mark!" Sarah cried, but the sound was drowned out as the chaos erupted again. Mark pushed himself between Sarah and Jake, but the room felt like it was collapsing around them. A flash of light erupted from Sarah again, more potent and chaotic. The walls buckled slightly, as if acknowledging her raw surge of power. Had she just released enough to send shockwaves through the very structure surrounding them? "Get back!" An officer yelled, aiming his weapon, the sharp noise slicing through the air once again. There was a click, and then silence, everyone frozen in place. In that heartbeat, Sarah felt the baby stir within her, as if reacting to the tension that had consumed the room. Panic churned within her. Would this all come to an end before she could even meet her child? "Sarah, you need to manage this," Mark urged, his voice edged with certainty, cutting through the fraught silence. "You have to trust yourself." "Trust myself," she murmured, the words swirling around her like a prayer. That single thought ignited a spark deep within. "I won't let this happen. Jake wasn't backing down. Fools. You don't realize." Before he could finish, another pulse of power burst forth, unbidden, overwhelming. Splintering shards shot through the room, and everything around them dissolved into blinding flashes of light and echoing cries. The officers fell back to avoid the chaos, while Mark shielded Sarah with his body. Then, like a sudden strike of thunder, the air turned electric, and the lights blinked out entirely. In that instant of blackness, Sarah felt herself drifting, either soaring or plummeting into nothingness. "Mark!" The desperation in her voice hung in the darkness like an unstruck chord. Responses came in fragmented gasps. She felt pairs of hands grasping her, a mix of panic and determination. Was it Mark? The officers? Or something more sinister? "Hold on." Mark's voice was urgent yet full of conviction, as if he believed deeply in their chance to survive this. But before she could muster another thought, the world jolted back to life, the lights flickering back on, only she was no longer in the same room. She was in an empty hospital corridor, eerie and still. The weight of her baby pressed heavily against her, and a flash of dread coursed through her veins. Where was everyone? "Mark?" she called, her voice trembling, desperation climbing higher. From the shadows, a figure emerged, a familiar silhouette that sent a chill racing down her spine. It was Dr. Harris, her ex-husband, standing with a chilling smile. "Sarah," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "I've been waiting for this moment, and you have no idea what's about to unfold." A shiver rippled through her as the darkness gathered, trapping her within. What had she walked into? And then she heard the whisper again inside her mind, like the beckoning of an old friend or perhaps an old enemy. "Now it begins." Sarah's heart raced, pounding against her chest like a frantic bird desperate to escape. There was Dr. Harris, his silhouette emerging from the shadows, his smile twisted. It was the smile that haunted her dreams, the one that masked 1,000 unspoken threats. "Where's Mark?" she demanded, the words tearing from her throat. He stepped closer, the flickering fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows across his face. "Oh, he's around, but you won't need him here." She felt the darkness pressing in, a thick shroud that clung to her. Panic whispered in her ear, gnawing at her resolve. But she swallowed hard, determined. "You can't do this," she said, her voice steadying. "Not to me. Not to my baby." Dr. Harris laughed softly, a sound that sent jolts of ice through her. "Your baby is already part of something much bigger than you can imagine. And I mean to ensure its destiny is fulfilled." A cold sweat broke over her brow. "What are you talking about?" He brushed a hand through his hair, feigning nonchalance, but she could see the glint in his eyes. "So naive, Sarah. You really believe you can just walk away from what we started? The work we did together?" Her mind flashed back to those late nights they spent bonding over medical journals, their ambition to push boundaries in neonatal care. But it had spiraled, twisted into nightmares that she fought to escape. "I thought that was over," she spat, her breaths coming shallow now as the weight of dread bore down upon her. "No, my dear. It has just begun." Suddenly, she felt a tingle, an electric pull, her connection to the power inside her surging against the terror surrounding her. She placed a trembling hand on her belly and focused. This was her child, this moment was meant for them. Dr. Harris noticed. A shadow of concern crossed his face, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. "You think that lonely spark can save you?" he said, voice dangerously low. You won't be able to protect it. Not from me. The corridor flickered, the lights flickering dangerously as she let her emotions swell. Anger bubbled up, mixing with fear, creating a potent cocktail ready to explode. You don't understand what I'm capable of, she replied, defiance sparking in her chest. You're right, I don't, he retorted. But we have all the time in the world to find out. Before she could gather her next breath, he lunged at her, grasping her wrist. She could feel the cold panic grip her. His fingers were a vice, filled with the determination of a man unbent by conscience. Suddenly, the whisper returned, stronger now, almost tangible as it echoed in her ears. Let it out, Sarah. In that heartbeat, it all ignited. The power that coursed through her veins erupted like a volcano. A blinding flash of light radiated from her, exploding outwards, casting Dr. Harris back as the corridor warped around them. She felt both weightless and heavy, as if the sensation of floating was part of her mind fighting her fear. The walls twisted, and shadows shrank back against the light. Sarah. The voice was unmistakable. With every ounce of her strength, she pulled the energy to her, forming it like an iron shield. Mark. She screamed, searching through the chaos. A shape emerged, a figure struggling against the distortion of the corridor. It was Mark, his eyes wide with horror and awe. Get back! He shouted, but it was too late. The energy surged from her, redirecting itself to the darkness creeping from Dr. Harris. The corridor split, a chasm forming as her ex-husband shrieked. In a flash, he was engulfed by the wave of light, fizzling into nothingness amidst the chaos. But was it truly over? Her heart dropped, the weight of uncertainty sweeping in. Had he really been vanquished, or was this just the beginning of a darker game? Just then, the whispers intensified, echoing louder. It's not over, Sarah. Not by a long shot. Questions burned in her mind as the lights flickered again, soothing her pulse for one moment before plunging everything back into blackness. Where was she? What had she attracted into her world? And then she realized, alone in this purgatory of shadows, that the birth she had longed for was inching nearer, yet enveloped still in a conspiracy that threatened to consume them all. Could she hold on, or would the shadows claim her and her child? In this moment, the corridor trembled with the promise of chaos yet to come. The darkness around Sarah felt as if it had a life of its own, wrapping around her like an unwelcome embrace. She could hear her own heartbeat thrumming loud, drowning out the chaos that had just unraveled. Where was Mark? Where was everyone? She braced herself, needing to hold on to hope, knowing the baby was coming. It had to, then, as if propelled by an unseen force, the lights flickered back on. Mark emerged from the swirling shadows, face pale, but determination writ large in his eyes. Sarah. Are you okay? His voice pierced through her despair like a beacon. I'm here, she gasped, dread and adrenaline coursing through her. But we need to find a way out. He's not gone, he can't be. I'll protect you, no matter what, Mark vowed, his voice unwavering, though she could see his fear simmering just beneath the surface. Before she could respond, the ominous whispers crescendoed within her. Believe in the power, they urged, inviting her to embrace the very essence of what lay within. And with that realization came clarity. Every injustice they had faced led to this moment. Every spark she felt layered in fear had become fuel for a fire igniting inside her. Sarah didn't just want to protect her child, she had to reclaim her own life, reclaim her destiny. I won't let them take away my choices anymore, she declared, a voice of strength and defiance rising up within her. The power inside her surged in response, a living current of energy that twisted and turned, leaping at her command. The air snapped with electric anticipation as light gathered around her. Mark stared in awe as a glowing aura encapsulated her, a protective barrier separating them from the darkness creeping along the walls. What are you doing? I'm becoming who I was meant to be, Mark. I won't let fear lead me anymore. In the blink of an eye, shadows recoiled from the brilliance radiating from her, unable to withstand the charge of her newfound strength. The corridor felt alive, vibrating with the energy she channeled from the depths of her being. "Go," she urged, stepping toward the entrance that was dim but still real. "I'll hold this back. You need to get help." "No way. I won't leave you." His voice cracked with frustration, but she could feel the weight of urgency. "I'm not asking, I'm telling you." Panic shredded her determination, but she focused through it, drawing strength from the growing life within. "Mark, you can still save us both. Please." With a pained expression, he turned toward the corridor. Shadows loomed but a sliver of light peeked through the edges. The way out was right ahead. "Sarah, fight," he urged, desperation lacing his words, and for the first time, she saw unwavering trust flashing in his eyes. He wanted to believe in her. In that moment, the layers of fear peeled away. The power surged and swirled into a dazzling force, radiating light that pierced through the gloom. "I will fight." Jake's laughter echoed, but it felt weak, losing its venom as the light pushed against him, pulling strength away, sensing destruction for the first time. "You think you can stop this? You have no idea what we've started. Stop!" She shouted, feeling primal energy leaping through her hands, her heart pounding in rhythm with the pulsing power that illuminated everything. "I know exactly what is happening, and I won't let my child be a pawn in your games." With a final surge, she directed her energy toward him, a brilliant wave of light that shattered the darkness, enveloping Jake, consuming his threats until he vanished into nothingness. Peace filled the air, whispering promises of hope. Suddenly, the world around her shifted, the oppressive gloom lifted, revealing a bright corridor that seemed to breathe. "Mark," she called, heart racing that he turned. "You did it. You fought him off." I feel in that moment, everything seemed to shift back into place, the weight of the walls crumbling into a dream. "But I need to push." The baby time froze as she felt her body gravitate to the pull of impending delivery, twisting pain and anticipation intertwining. "Let us go." Mark grasped her hand, guiding her toward the open doorway where nurses and doctors were rushing in. They didn't have to fight for this anymore, she had emerged stronger than ever. With each step, Sarah could feel the warmth of freedom wrapping around her as the luminous light shimmered around them. With renewed hope and determination, she gave one last glance over her shoulder, feeling the shadows retreat, a promise buried within her heart. With a fierce howl of strength, she took a deep breath, pushing forth the life she had longed for, her voice ringing triumphantly. "I will protect you. From everything." As she entered the bright room beyond, the crisp whiteness of the hospital glowed, welcoming her baby with open arms. Stepping into her true self, she had not just survived, she had thrived, and in that moment, she understood she was ready to face whatever followed. This was only the beginning, now was the time to open a new chapter. But the echoes of the past were a looming shadow, and that was her true power. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And do not wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world.